Hey everybody, Regwin here, and welcome to the Global Pokemon Society, welcome to my draft analysis for the Utah Slowkings for the Global Pokemon Society Draft League. I kinda was able to get into this draft league at the last minute. The matches start this Monday. Week 1 for matches start this Monday, May 17th. So this was kind of a last minute draft league that I got put into because I asked them to tell me if there was an open spot, and at the last minute there was an open spot for me to join the league at the last minute. So here I am in the Global Pokemon Society Draft League. And yes, I said Utah Slowking, not Utah Mews. There was already a Mew team in this league, the Memphis Mew, so I kind of had to go with a different Pokemon for a mascot. So they gave me Slowking, so I went with Utah Slowkings instead. So we're Utah Slowkings instead of Utah Mews this season. So yeah, anyways, I'm going to tell you my picks here and why I picked everything. And yeah, of course, I kind of got last draw of all the picks because I came in after the draft was already over. So I had to pick what was left over on the board. So anyways, yeah, let's start by talking about pick number 1, which my first pick was Roserade, which I have drafted Roserade once before, and it did decent for me. And that was in my first ever draft league that I ever did, which was DLC Season 2, which I didn't record because I didn't really think of a way to record Switch matches back then, and some of the matches were on Switch that season, and some of them were on Showdown, so it's a little weird. And now that I got it figured out on how to record Switch matches, I wish I would have gotten it figured out back then, because then I could have recorded the entire season, but I didn't. But anyways, that season didn't get recorded, but I did draft Roserade in DLC Season 2, even though I didn't record that draft league season, I still did it, and I drafted Roserade, and it did pretty good for me, and I'm excited to have it again to see if I can do a little bit better with it this season, and probably try and think of some new sets to run on it. And I know that Roserade has a lot of special attack, and it's decently fast for a grass type, which is really good. And I know it gets coverage like Dazzling Gleam and Shadow Ball. And I know it gets extra sensory. And of course it gets Sludge Bomb and Giga Drain and stuff because it's a Rock, Grass, and Poison type. So it gets some pretty good moves, and yeah, I'll be hoping to do my best with Roserade this season. Hopefully it'll do better for me than it did in DLC Season 2, because in that season it was kind of a rocky season because it was my first ever draft league season, so that was kind of a tough season. So I'm hoping that Roserade can do really good for me this season. And yeah, now we're moving on to pick number 2. I'm going in the order that I drafted these in, which pick number 2 was a Pokemon I've drafted a couple times before recently, and I drafted it again. It's Mamoswine. Yeah, I was surprised to see Mamoswine still on the board. I was really surprised to see that nobody drafted Mamoswine. I was just really surprised to see that. So when I saw Mamoswine available, I decided to take it because I love Mamoswine. He is really good. And I love his ability, whatever it is. Can't think of it off the top of my head right now, but Thick Fat. I love his Thick Fat ability, weakening the damage of fire and ice type moves done to him. I love that ability because it makes it so that way he can most likely eat up a fire attack. And he can dish a hard blow back. Plus, I love how he gets, like, Ice Shard. That's a really good move that he gets because it's, like, a 40 power physical ice type move that gets priority to go first, which is really nice. A 40 base power physical ice type priority move, which I really like. And I just like his typing, ice and ground. It's just a really good typing, and I just really like Mamoswine. And yeah, he gets like some really good moves, and I seem to play really well with Mamoswine, I notice. And so yeah, that's why I drafted Mamoswine, because I just saw him still on the board. He's a favorite of mine, and I decided to take him. I almost didn't take him because I almost saw a different Pokemon that was still on the board that I was really surprised about, and I almost took it instead of Mamoswine. I'll tell you what that Pokemon was that I almost took. I almost took Weavile instead because I saw Weavile still on the board, and I was like, maybe I should try using Weavile instead of Mamoswine, but then I thought about it, and I was like, nope, I'll just take Mamoswine instead. I don't want to try using Weavile right now because Mamoswine's just a Pokemon I'm comfortable using, and yeah, I decided to take Mamoswine instead of Weavile. Anyways, the next Pokemon that I drafted, and I'll say pick number 3, is Slowbro. And I know Kanto Slowbro. And I know you're a little surprised about Kanto Slowbro. I almost picked Gastrodon, who I hadn't used since, like, DLC Season 2, I think. But then I saw Slowbro still on the board, and I know he's slower, I know. But I decided to take Slowbro because he's slow, but he's fairly bulky, and he gets the Regenerator ability, which is really nice. So if I switch him out, he can heal up a third of his HP when I switch him out, which is really good. Plus, he gets reliable recovery and slack off, which is really nice. So he can heal himself up with slack off. And so he gets reliable recovery. Plus he gets like Flamethrower, and he gets like Ice Beam and Scald and like Psychic. So he gets like decent coverage, and I really like Kanto Slowbro, and I just saw him sitting there, and I was like, you know what? Let's try using Kanto Slowbro because I've never used him before, and how about let's try using him? So yeah, I decided to pick Kanto Slowbro at the last second because he was still on the board, and I figured he'd be a really interesting pick to try using, considering that I've never used him before and I've seen him do really good with other teams and other draft leagues. So I decided to see if I could play well with him. So let's see how well I can play with Kanto Slowbro this season. Hopefully I'll play really well, and yeah. Anyways, our next pick is a Pokemon I've drafted almost... Sorry, had a tickle in my throat. Anyways, the Pokemon that I drafted next was Wheezing. And I've drafted him in almost every draft league I've been in, except for maybe a couple. But yeah, I've drafted him like quite a few times, and I really like Wheezing because he's a really good bulky poison type, and I know a lot of poison types are bulky, but he's a really good physically defensive poison type, and I really like that. But plus he gets some decent coverage with like Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball, Dark Pulse. He gets like Sludge Bomb and Sludge Wave. He also gets Flamethrower. He can burn things with Will-O-Wisp or poison them, whichever way you want to go. Plus he can get rid of status. Plus he can get rid of stat buffs or stat decreases with Haze, which is another nice thing. And yeah, I just really like Wheezing. He's a very good, bulky, physically defensive Pokemon. And I play really well with Kanto Wheezing. And yeah, I just saw him still on the board. And I love my boy Methane, the Wheezing. And I just love him. He's a favorite of mine to use in draft. And that is why I drafted Wheezing. But anyways, another pick that I decided to go with that I wanted to try using, that I really like this Pokemon, and I really wanted to try using it in draft to see if it could do some good. I almost didn't go for this Pokemon, but I decided to go with it instead of another Pokemon, and that Pokemon is Dragonite. I went with Dragonite because I needed someone for Defog, and Dragonite, I most likely gets access to Defog. I'm pretty sure he does because he can fly. So he's a Pokemon I can put Defog on. And yeah, I really needed someone to use Defog and also be very like offensive. And Dragonite can do just that. It can learn Defog, and it can be very offensive. And it can run Weakness Policy really well, because it can eat up a super effective hit from full HP, and then have its weakness WP proc, and get its attack to +2 and its special attack to +2. So then it can just hit really hard. And it can just hit really hard with its physical or special attack stats. So, yeah. So then I can run it either physical, run it as a physical attacker, or run it as a special attacker. Or I can run it mixed, which is good. And yeah, that's why I got Dragonite, because I saw him still on the board. I figured he'd be a good Pokemon to try using because I really like him. And yeah, and I also needed a Pokemon that could learn Defog. And yeah, that's why I picked Dragonite. Which, another Pokemon I saw still on the board, and I almost went for this over Dragonite, but because of my next pick, I figured that I would go for Dragonite because it can learn Defog, and the other Pokemon I saw still on the board couldn't. And that other Pokemon I saw that was still on the board was Garchomp. And I was really surprised to see Garchomp still on the board. I was really surprised. But I was like, Garchomp can't learn Defog, and Dragonite can. So, yeah. So I decided to go with Dragonite over Garchomp because Dragonite can learn Defog. But anyways, my next pick is a really good pick, and I'm surprised it was still on the board because this Pokemon is really good and is a really scary Pokemon to go against. And that Pokemon is Ferramosa. I was surprised to still see this thing still on the board because this thing is really scary to go against. It can be really scary for people to go against. And to see it still on the board, I was shocked. So once I saw it on the board, I was like, I knew I had to grab it. Because this thing is really frail, so you have to run it Focus Sashed. But if you can get it out and have its Focus Sash intact, it can eat up a hit and have its Focus Sash. It can deal out one hard hit and then eat a hit. due to its Focus Sash, and then it can dish out another hard hit before going down. And so this thing can be really strong. It gets decent coverage. I know it gets like Ice Beam, and it's Bug and Fighting type, so it's quad weak to Flying, so you have to keep it away from Flying types, but yeah, it can do a lot of damage. It is very scary to go against because it's really fast and can hit things really hard. And yeah, that's why I went with Ferramosa, because it's fast, it can hit things really hard, it gets decent coverage. And yeah, that's why I picked Ferramosa. Anyways, my next pick is someone I love, and I've used them a couple times before, and I really like them. It's Togekiss. Now, Togekiss was taken, but it was taken by the team that I was replacing, so Togekiss was technically still on the board because it was taken by the team I was replacing. So, because it was taken by the team I was replacing, I was able to take Togekiss because Togekiss was still on the board. So, I took Togekiss, and yeah, I really like Togekiss. I love being able to run it with Serene Grace, and running it with Serene Grace and then using Thunder Wave and Air Slash to be able to Paraflinch things is just mean. And I really like that, and I like how it gets reliable healing and soft boiled. Plus, it's another Pokemon that can learn Defog if I need to remove hazards for Ferramosa. Togekiss can also learn Defog, so I can slap Defog on it. And so I can slap Defog on it, and yeah, and be able to remove hazards for Ferramosa. So, plus it's just really good with being able to Paraflinch things, and yeah, that's why I picked Togekiss. Because I love being able to Paraflinch things with Togekiss. Plus, it's a Pokemon that can learn Defog to get rid of hazards for Ferramosa. And yeah, that's why I picked Togekiss. Now my next... Sorry. My throat is really messed up right now, I can tell you that much. But anyways, sorry about having to keep clearing my throat. My next pick, who I actually went with this at the last second because my original pick here was already taken. It didn't say it was taken on the dock, but it said it was taken in the Discord server for the league. So, yeah. That Pokemon I originally was going to pick was Milotic, but in the Discord server it said it was taken, so I had to pick a different Pokemon. So my next pick is Arcanine. And I used Arcanine back in DLC Season 2, and I didn't really use it that much that season, which I think that I should have used it more because it was a really good Pokemon, and it's a really good Pokemon, and I didn't really use it much that season, and I probably should have used it more. Well, hopefully this season I'll use Arcanine more, and yeah, I love Arcanine because it's really versatile. You can run it like physically defensive, you can run it specially defensive, you can run it physically offensive, or you can run it specially offensive. So it's like really good because there's so much you can do with it. It gets a lot of coverage. It gets fire moves, of course, because it's a fire type, but then it also gets like close combat. It gets like Psychic Fangs. It gets Crunch. It gets Wild Charge. And it gets a healing move in Morning Sun, which is good. It has low PP though, but it still gets a healing move nonetheless in Morning Sun. And then it gets other moves. Like, I think it gets like a dragon move. I think it gets like Dragon Pulse or something. I'm not really sure. But I know it gets some dragon move, which is really good for Arcanine. And because of that, I really like Arcanine. And he is just a really versatile Pokemon. And you can run him so many different ways. And for being a really good Pokemon and a resistance to fire for the team, that's why I picked Arcanine. Because he's a really good Pokemon. It's hard to predict what Arcanine's going to do, and I really like Arcanine. And yeah, that's why I picked Arcanine. Now my next pick is something I've drafted in every draft league I've been in so far. I've used it in almost every one except one, which is PTG Season 4. I drafted it, but I didn't use it at all that season, which I kind of feel bad about because it's a really good Pokemon. And that Pokemon is Gallade. I saw Gallade still on the board, which obviously it was because nobody thinks to use Gallade, which is kind of a shame because I love Gallade. Gallade is like a favorite of mine, and whenever I'm in a draft league and I see Gallade still available, I can't help but draft him because he does so much work for me when I use him. I'm really good at using him, and I just really like Gallade because he gets such good coverage, and he has decent special defense. He has really poor defense, but he has pretty good special defense, and he's a really good physical attacker. And he's not the fastest, but what he can do it well. He gets like good physical moves like Zen Headbutt, Psycho Cut, and then he gets like Drain Punch, Close Combat. And then he gets like Ice Punch, Fire Punch, Thunder Punch. And then he gets like Rock Slide, he gets Poison Jab. And yeah, he gets so many good moves and so much coverage, which is physical coverage, which is why I like Gallade. And yeah, with his pretty good special defense and his really good attack, that is why I like Gallade. And for his psychic and fighting type. And for him being a really good psychic and fighting type. And that is why I like Gallade. And why I drafted him. And now my final pick is kind of a weird pick because, and it's kind of a Pokemon that I've never used before either. And that pick is Rotom Fan, and it's my final pick for the league, for this season of the draft league, unless I decide to drop something. But for starting for week 1, my final pick going into week 1 is Rotom Fan. And I know what you're thinking, Rotom Fan. Why draft Rotom Fan? Well, at the time I thought I had drafted my Milotic, so I didn't think to grab Rotom Wash because I was like, oh, I've got my Milotic. I don't need to grab Rotom Wash. But apparently, in the end, I got Arcanine instead of my Milotic. But yeah, I drafted Rotom Fan at the time. And the main reason why I drafted it is because I wanted another defogger to keep hazards off the field for Ferramosa. So I wanted another defogger, and I know that all the Rotom forms get defog, so I drafted it for defog. Plus, it's an electric and flying type because Rotom Fan is electric and flying, so... And I know it's the Rotom form with Levitate being a useless ability on it because it's already a flying type, but... Yeah. But yeah, I decided to draft Rotom Fan because I saw it still available, and I was like, you know what? Let's draft this thing. It will be another defogger, And plus, it also gets Air Slash and it gets Thunder Wave. And I know what you're thinking. It doesn't have as good of a chance to Paraflinch as Togekiss does because it doesn't have the Serene Grace ability. Well, it still can Paraflinch somewhat because it does get Air Slash, I believe. And because of that, it can at least somewhat Paraflinch. And because of that, Rotom Fan can still be a really annoying Pokemon. Plus, it gets Defog, so that's nice. So I can get rid of hazards with Defog. And not only that, it gets like Thunderbolt and Discharge and yeah. It gets like Thunderbolt and Discharge and yeah. And yeah, I drafted Rotom Fan for the main thing being, for its main job being a defogger, but it being an electric and flying type, it can help out in other I'm hoping that Rotom Fan will be able to help out in other situations throughout the season, and yeah. That is why I drafted Rotom Fan, for the main reason for it being a defogger, but also to hopefully have it help with other situations that may come up throughout the season. So yeah, that is my team for the Utah Slowkings. And yeah, I hope that you get excited to watch my matches throughout this season of the Global Pokemon Society Draft League season. I hope you get excited to watch my match. And I'll see you guys in the next video for week 1 of the Global Pokemon Society Draft League. And I'll see you in the next video See you guys then. Redwin out.